It looks again to be another assault weapon. It looks again to be a crime of hate of some kind. And it looks again like there are multiple people killed. And we just learned a 4-month-old is struggling for their life. That's what happened today in the United States of America.
The American people are overwhelmingly united, and that is gun owners and non-gun owners, in wanting to see the passage of common sense gun safety legislation.
We have a president who refuses to protect his country from the onslaught of this gun violence.
We need the United States Congress to act. We have to act. There has to be an agreement that we have as Americans, that it is unacceptable that we have these incidents where people are being slaughtered in our streets.
America is under attack by lethal, violent, white nationalist terrorism. And if we're serious about confronting it, that means we have to have a different conversation than this hand-wringing and thoughts and prayers and, that's too bad. This is a national security emergency.
With absolutely nothing to run on. And they're running out of stuff to give away. Because basically the Democrats want to give away everything. Free education, free health care. Yeah, we'll see how 160, 170 million Americans who receive health care through their employer feel about having all of that taken away to be put on government-mandated health care. As many of you know, I am a pastor. And in the church I pastor, I have both Democrats and Republicans. It's funny. Many of the Democrats that sit in my pews who have been spoon-fed a narrative from the mainstream media about President Donald Trump and about Republicans, yet when you talk to them one-on-one, and at first they tell you, I don't understand, Pastor, how you can be a Republican, how you can be a conservative. When you start breaking it down and asking them questions like, well, do you believe in abortion on demand right up to birth? Well, no. Do you believe that when a child is born, if it's causing mental trauma on the mother at that point, and she decides to tell the doctor, terminate that child, and the doctor will use the excuse for the health of the mother, that child should literally be murdered once it's been born? Well, no. That's well, the governor of Virginia does. Democrat. The Democratic governor of New York got through an infanticide bill of abortion right up to birth, and it's going to become the party platform. And then when you start asking them questions like, do you want the government picking your doctor, assigning which hospital you have to go to for procedure? Might be in your backyard, which might be the equivalent of a veterinary clinic in your local area, or it might be one several hours away, or it requires you to fly there at your own expense and put yourself up at a hotel at your own expense, and then maybe you get in this large institutional complex where maybe a doctor will see you and maybe he won't, and maybe it gets put off and you got to get told to come back another time after you've laid out the expense of getting there. And well, no. Well, then why would you vote for the party that's what they're advocating? That all said, when you break down even issues like gun control, when you break down issues like what happened in the wake of these horrific shootings in both Texas and here in Ohio, when you break it down on the one-on-one level, he says that we are overrun with white terrorists, white nationalist terrorists. Really? Where? Where? And I don't want to hear any more about what happened in Charlotte. Oh, people showed up with Confederate flags. And what about Antifa who showed up with bats with spikes sticking out of them and other weapons and wearing skull face masks? We don't talk about any of that. This past weekend, it's called the bloodiest weekend in Chicago so far for 2019. But it's okay. Chicago has a way of continually breaking their own record week in and week out of the number of murders. Yet, it's not white terrorists committing murders in Chicago. It's black on black murder. Black on black murder. We don't see any of the Democrats going to Chicago. We don't see any of the Democrats decrying Barack Obama. I mean, after all, it was on Barack Obama's watch, we had 24 mass shootings while he was president. President Bush didn't come out and say, well, of course not. Bush was a wimp and a liar and a coward and, in my personal opinion, a war criminal. Part of that rhino GOP that Mitt Romney and the former useless governor of Ohio, John Kasich, are a part of. Trump hits back. Barack Obama comes out, talks about Trump and mass shootings while he's in office, yet what did Barack Obama ever do other than try to take away your right to own a firearm? And now there's Booty-a-Gig, Butt-Gig, mayor of South Bend, who couldn't even handle 8 people protesting when he went to speak to them about a police-involved shooting, and they smacked him down, talked him down, and even at his town hall, basically forced him to sit there with his hands folded and quiet. Yeah, he's the guy we ought to listen to in time of crisis. To say that this president fosters this type of attitude, who is it that has so out of their minds with hatred, just absolutely in the vilest terms, talks about the president on a daily, hourly, minute-by-minute basis on the cable news and all over the mainstream lying legacy corporate media and on events like The View? It's libloons and libtards and liberal terrorists, liberal mental terrorists who get everybody all worked up on hating this president even when they don't even really understand what he's done that has so benefited this country, turning things around to the point that the Democrats have nothing to run on. The economy is not collapsing. We don't need all these endless welfare programs because of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and Democratic leadership. All of our jobs got sucked out of this country. The economy right now is rocking and rolling. And you know what? People don't need the handouts. Lowest minority unemployment ever. Ever. But you see, if you don't need a handout, they can't control you. And that's what has the Democrats so upset. That's what has the libloons and that oligarch and that deep state so absolutely incensed. So what do? What do they do? Why, these shootings, it's Donald Trump's fault. Bernie Sanders with the tired, broken old record of, we need more gun control. We need more gun control. No, we don't. Notice how they don't want to talk about the shooting in Ohio because the shooter in Ohio was a libloon supporter of Elizabeth Warren. We want to talk about that one, but we'll talk about the fake narrative of the shooter in Texas, and I will have more to say about that in my 3rd video. Make sure you watch the 3rd video in this afternoon series, because I'm going to lay it out for you. Why is it every time the Democrats are about to take a big hit, a major loss, a final exposing of how corrupt they are and what they've really been up to, that just as that's about to happen, just as Mueller implodes, just as President Trump points out how vile inner city America is under Democrat administrations, just as the Inspector General report is about to be made public, all of a sudden we conveniently have a mass shooting. And yes, you know where I'm going with this, so don't miss the 3rd video. So for Buttigieg butt gig to say this is white terrorists, well, where are the white terrorists shooting young people in Chicago? There's not. It's black on black. Oh, and Bernie? Chicago has the strictest gun control laws in the country. Next to New York City. Oh, yeah, New York City. Yeah, they're crime-free, aren't they? Safe to walk the streets there, isn't it? Well, it's safe if you're a criminal and you're armed. It's the law-abiding citizens, the people, the legal gun owners that have their rights stripped from them. They're the victims. They're the prey. They're the target. They're the ones that aren't safe. We're going to get into this in greater detail in the third video. But watching these Democrats now create this new myth of the white supremacist, the white extremist, worse than a racist, according to Corey grabbing boys in the men's room Booker. This is where I was going to some of you Democrats that are watching when I said earlier, when I start talking to Democrats and start breaking it down issue by issue and line by line, they find out that they actually agree with Donald Trump. So let me talk to all you blue-collar Democrats. You know what Donald Trump has done for the economy, but let me talk about some of you even upper-middle-class Democrats. You do realize you are going to fit in one of two categories if you want to stay with the Democratic Party. A, you're going to have to start practicing your white guilt. After all, it's not fair that you have things because white guilt. Or have you figured out that this election cycle, now that the Democrats have nothing to run on, and now that the Democrats have about given away or promising to give away about everything you can give away, they have to have an enemy. They have to have this vile, evil foe which must be defeated. And the vile, evil foe is not simply Donald Trump. It's anybody who supports him, and it's anybody who's the same skin color. You better figure it out. You are now the enemy. And that's what this election is going to be about, because that's where the Democrats are now no longer just content to take us into the sewer. We're going lower than the sewer. That's it. That is the second video for today. Make sure you give it a thumbs up, spread it, share it. Don't miss the third video. Subscribe to the channel and smack the bell for my next rant.